Joining BYU Sports Nation right now, friend of the program, former BYU national champion, and the man is the reason why we call Mondays Matich Mondays, ESPN's Trevor Matich. Trevor, welcome to the show. How you doing, man?
I'm doing great, Spencer. Hey, Logan, how you guys doing?
I'm doing good, You know, we're going to a bowl game, so very excited, and especially going to a warm bowl game, even though I'm not going to be there. But the guys are still going to be there, so happy that it's in Miami.
Yeah, that's probably where Jerem is right now. I don't know where he told you he went, but I think he's scouting locations right now on South Beach. So,
that's right.
And that's right. That you know, we used to go to the Holiday Bowl on Mission Beach in San Diego every year, and it was nice to leave the snows of Provo and literally be on the beach in San Diego. And Miami Beach, that's a pretty good place to go for a bowl game, considering that they have bowl games in cold places like Boise, Idaho, Detroit, Michigan, and even up in Canada. So, you know, that's a pretty good reward.
It seems almost poetic that BYU, on a night that was just frigid in Provo against UNLV, would clinch their spot at South Beach in the Miami Beach Bowl. Now, some funny things were said after the game, particularly from Paul Lasike, running back, and Mitch Matthews. Mitch, true to his form, said, it wasn't that cold. But for Paul, who's from New Zealand, he was like, man, I was freezing. Why do you think the two had such different opinions?
Well, look, okay, to start with, for a receiver to say that is like a kicker saying that, okay? Mitch Matthews, I mean, great guy. He caught 6 balls, probably stepped out of bounds on some of them. When you're a running back, every time you touch the ball, 5 guys are pounding you. Then you're slammed into that ice-cold, hard ground. Then you're picking up blitzes, you're blocking, there's contact left and right. It's a different experience on a frigid day for a running back than a receiver. I love Mitch Matthews, but Mitch, come on, man. You are in a pampered position compared to a running back.
So Real talk with Trevor Matich. Okay, let's talk about 10 straight bowl games. In an age of nearly 40 bowl games across Division I college football, you got over 60% of the teams that qualify. But Bronco Mendenhall has taken his team to 10 consecutive bowl games. Even in their down years, they're going to bowl games. How much credit should he get for doing that for the BYU football program?
You know what? Coaches especially around the country are amazed at what Bronco's been able to do with that, because they know how hard it is to put together a string like that. I mean, you have good years, and most coaches do, but most coaches also have down years. I mean, the most consecutive bowl games I believe Alabama's ever gone to is 11. Nobody in the Pac-12 has ever gone to 10 in a row or more, except for Oregon. BYU has done it. So I think coaches especially who have the long-term view and who understand the forces outside of their control that they have to coach through in order to get a team bowl eligible every year. I think it's an amazing feat, and I think Bronco and his staff should get tremendous credit.
Trevor, how much more impressive is it for this team to make it to a bowl game with all of the injuries to Taysom Hill, Jamal Williams, a couple other guys, you know, like seniors like Craig Bills, Lonnie Fua, that's been in and out? How much more of a success is it to make it to a bowl game with those injuries?
Well, that's another thing I think that coaches are also pretty much amazed at, because every coach, most coaches, have had teams where one huge star has carried them. And when that guy gets hurt, to keep it together and to still have a successful season is very difficult. And it's not just Taysom that got hurt, because, Logan, you mentioned the other guys that got hurt, the defensive stars,
right.
You know, all kinds of problems that happened. And yet here BYU is with 6 wins. They have a chance to get 8 and then a 9th. And so that's important. It's also important for the program, because when you go to a bowl game, now you get those extra 15 practices and all the extra meetings. So you can continue to develop your young talent in what amounts to an extra spring practice. And that's one of the reasons that Bronco has been able to sustain success. He's been able to have those bowl practices every year, so he gets a head start on spring practice and the season to come.
Trevor Matich of ESPN on BYU Sports Nation for another Matich Monday. Trevor, I want to go a little bit more in-depth from a national perspective on what people think about Bronco Mendenhall and why he would be a desirable coaching option to fill some what look like pretty high-profile vacancies that will be available after this season.
Well, it's because of what he's had to overcome to be a coach at BYU on a good day. BYU is a job that most coaches aren't qualified for. It takes a unique set of qualifications in order to even be considered as an applicant. But then to be good enough to be there, it's a tiny pool, a minuscule pool of coaches that could do it. And so then you look at what you have to do once you finally do get that job. And you've got to deal first and foremost with missions. Coaches will always complain, opposing coaches, that BYU has players that are older, more mature. They've been on missions. You've got 21-year-old freshmen sometimes, things like that. And then you ask those same coaches if they would want the same kind of thing at their program, and they will jump out of their shoes to say no, because they also understand what Bronco knows, that it creates tremendous disruption in the continuity position for position and in recruiting, because you'll sign guys and send them off on a mission and expect them to come back in 2 years ready to play football. So you'll recruit around that. And let's say you've got several, offensive tackles coming back. So you devote extra recruiting positions to other positions, assuming that 2 years from now those guys will come back and play offensive tackle. Well, what if those guys don't want to play anymore when they get back? Or what if when they get back, they've grown soft and they've lost the fire? That happens. Some guys come back from their mission and they're ready to roll. Other guys, they don't want to play football anymore, and there's no way to predict it. And so just the pure disruption in recruiting and filling out a roster and making sure all of your positions are balanced is helped by a mission, sure, because of the maturity, but it's also hurt by the missions because of not knowing who will come back and be ready to play. And other coaches look at Bronco, and they're astonished by it. Now, to go directly to your question, the other schools will look at Bronco and look at the success that he's had at BYU, even though he's had to deal with ups and downs in recruiting and filling out his roster, and he succeeded anyway. And they'll realize that without that particular obstacle at their school, he should be even better. And I think Bronco would be a great choice for anybody in the nation to consider for their coaching job, in part because of that.
Trevor, you made a great point. I've been saying that since 2009 when I first got here. I mean, I was a 1.2-star guy coming out of junior college, and just the way he ran his program and how much success I had, I really sat back and thought to myself, wow, if Bronco Mendenhall was at a UCLA, a USC, where he was getting some real good talent, 5-star guys that are 6'3", playing corner instead of a 5'6" guy, how much can he really do? How much can he really get accomplished? National championships, things like that. Do you really see Coach Mendenhall at another school, kind of compared to like a Nick Saban or a Les Miles in terms of that national recognition, preparing his teams to play for a national championship every single year?
Well, he, I think, could be there if he got to a conference. It's harder, I think, for BYU in some ways to win a national championship not being in a conference, because the metric of conference champion is an important benefit of the doubt advantage as the committee considers which teams to put in that third and fourth spot. And if you don't have a conference championship game, if you can't win your conference, you lose the benefit of the doubt from that standpoint. But I think BYU, though, with Bronco, if they can find somebody, if he ever does decide to leave, because it's a 4-team playoff now instead of 2 teams in the BCS, there's still a better chance for them to at least get into that pool. But, you have to do it with a sledgehammer and not with a rock hammer, because you can't ease your way in if you don't have that conference championship game to help you. Bronco at another school would be a fantastic coach, but if I'm BYU, I do everything I can to keep him because he has been exactly what that program wants. So keep in mind, the first priority of BYU in general is to be an ambassador for the church, is to represent the university and the church in a way that would make you proud. And Bronco has done that. His program has done that. The fact that he's added wins and the competitiveness and 10 consecutive bowl games and all those different things, those are important. But to do it with the representation is what the difficult thing is. And if I'm any other school, I want a guy like Bronco representing me the way he's represented BYU. If I'm BYU, I do everything I can to keep him.
Bronco Mendenhall has made it no secret that he feels like BYU has enough national brand and marketability to be in a Power 5 conference, specifically the Big 12. Let's look at the Big 12 right now. They're kind of in a tough spot when they're looking at the college football playoff. I don't see them having a team in there, TCU or Baylor, with Alabama, Florida State, Oregon, and Mississippi State. Is the best case scenario for BYU, the Big 12, not getting into the college football playoff, Trevor?
Actually, yeah, that is a good one, because right now the Big 12 does not have incentive to expand. They're dividing their television money and all the other rights money among 10 teams. The Pac-12, it's among 12 teams, and then you've got the ACC, SEC, et cetera, among 14 teams. So financially, the Big 12 is making out. They're getting rich, and they like it. But ultimately, the first time they lose the benefit of the doubt and have a conference champion that otherwise might have made the playoff not make it in favor of somebody else with a similar resume but that played a conference championship game, that's when I think the Big 12 will have the incentive to expand. And so for BYU fans, I mean, I don't wish ill on the Big 12 at all, but for BYU fans, if it turns out that way, for those who want to make it into the Big 12, that's the best possibility for the Big 12 to want to make that jump.
Do you see that scenario playing out this year with the current situation, or maybe do you see that happening 2-3 years down the road?
Well, this year, it's looking like it may well. And part of the reason is what's happening up above them. Right now, if you look at the poll, Mississippi State lost. So you're looking right now at a probable top four that will include Florida State, Alabama, Oregon, and then either TCU or Ohio State. But once we get the metrics of conference champion plugged in, then all of a sudden Ohio State will have, I think, another advantage. And that advantage is that they'll be playing a conference champion Wisconsin team that looks spectacularly impressive in crushing Nebraska. And that will be an extra opportunity to impress the voters that the Big 12 won't have. And if it comes down to Ohio State and either TCU or Baylor, if everything else looks relatively equal to the committee, like let's say it's Baylor. Yeah, Ohio State lost to Virginia Tech, but it was in week 2 with a freshman quarterback filling in for their Heisman candidate quarterback who was injured. Does that make sense to BYU fans? What happens when that happens? Not Christian Stewart's not a freshman, but
yes.
J.T. Barrett was a freshman, right? So if it comes down to that, then the committee might say, look, Ohio State had that 13th game, and if they beat Wisconsin and beat them bad, then you might have the Big 12 get bounced out. So because of all that, I think it is a fairly good likelihood that the Big 12 will come down to having their champion in competition for that 4th spot, and they could well get bounced, possibly, most likely, by Ohio State.
ESPN college football analyst and expert Trevor Matich on BYU Sports Nation. Follow him on Twitter at @TMatich. Trevor, who is your top 4, or who are your top 4 right now?
Right now, my top 4 are Alabama at 1, Oregon at 2, number 3, Ohio State, and number 4, Baylor.
So you have a Big 12 team in your top 4.
No, I check that. I'm sorry. I'm looking at these things here. I've got Alabama, Oregon, Ohio State. Number 4, I'm sorry, is Florida State.
Florida State.
I had Florida State at number 7 last week. I've got them at number 4 now.
After surviving
Nice.
Miami. Okay,
Yes.
And before we go, Trevor, you said something last year that we loved, and it's gone down in infamy in BYU Sports Nation. You said, don't sleep on Idaho State. BYU has Savannah State this week. Can you please just say, don't sleep on Savannah State?
Don't sleep on Savannah State.
Can they just skip Savannah State? Can they just watch Cal film for this week?
Listen, Cal is second in the Pac-12 only to Oregon in scoring. Cal is a win over Cal would be a quality win for BYU. But Savannah State, bless their hearts, they they've played 11 games, and you've got to give them credit for being consistent. They've lost them all, and they are a team that, it'll be good for BYU to get extra work in for some of their young guys. let some of their veterans get some rest before Cal. And I'll tell you, they'll need it on defense because the secondary will be chasing Cal Bears all over creation once that passing offense gets cranked up. So Savannah State, bless their hearts, it's just they're there for a reason, and they'll serve that purpose, and I hope they have fun and enjoy the scenery of Provo.
Trevor, great stuff. Thanks so much.
All right, guys.